Hello, my name is Arlo Stevens and you're watching Sporting Icons.
Okay, so one story that I want to talk about is Moses Etuma. 18 years old, he's just turned professional in the heavyweight division. He's now signed with Frank Warren Queensbury to be live and exclusive on BT Sport. Of course, he's the brother of the light heavyweight in Carol Etuma. Now, Moses, as an amateur, he done very, very well. He won the World Youth Championships by knocking out all of his opponents in the first round. So very, very good, right? That's fantastic. Now, quite how he's going to get on in the professional game, time will tell. But again, we'll have a little bit of a chat about that in a second. Anyway, he says that his aim is to become the world heavyweight champion at a younger age than Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson was 20 years old, 4 months and 22 days. So that would mean that Moses Etuma has 2 years, 3.5 months or thereabouts to achieve that. Now, Mike Tyson, he did it in 1 year and 7 months. But he did that across 27 fights before he fought Trevor Berbick for the WBC World Heavyweight Championship. Now, Moses Etuma didn't have to worry too much about doing it in a year and a half or so. No, as I said, he didn't have to do it in a shorter time period than a Mike Tyson, but he'd be looking to do it at a younger age. So he's got a little bit more time. But that took Mike Tyson 27 fights. Of course, a lot of knockovers along the way, of course, as you would fully expect, as we would fully expect for Moses Etuma as well, or at least I would, and a lot of you would. Unfortunately, we are in a day and age where fans will start calling judgment really on him after about 2 or 3 fights, and where they're going to start making predictions about him. He's going to be great, or he's going to be British level at best. You know how like some fans go. But that's just something he's going to have to learn to ignore and just concentrate on himself. But with Francis Warren, the son of Frank Warren, he said that they plan on getting him out 8 times this year and 8 times next year. At that point, hopefully he'll be ready for a world title. So that would be 16 fights with only a couple of months left to go to try and beat Mike Tyson's record. Now, is that possible? Well, Anthony Joshua became world heavyweight champion, IBF, of course, when he defeated Charles Martin on his 16th professional fight. So, Moses Etuma, of course, can do that, no doubt. But firstly, he's going to have to pretty much stay injury-free, or as best he can, to get 8 fights in this year and 8 fights in next year. But this year, okay, you go fight your journeyman and all that kind of stuff. But next year, that's when you have to start getting the rankings so you can be eligible for a world heavyweight title fight. Now, when Anthony Joshua became world heavyweight champion by defeating Charles Martin for the IBF heavyweight title on his 16th professional fight, that was at a time not too far after all the belts got fragmented, when Tyson Fury had to vacate or was stripped of a few belts. So Charles Martin became IBF champion. Eddie Hearn Matchroom offered Charles Martin a lot of money. I think it's about 7 million, I think it was, to fight Anthony Joshua. So Anthony Joshua got an opportunity in his 16th professional fight. Will Moses Etuma, with a slightly different era, it's the same era, but a slightly different time frame, because unless Frank Warren still has a hold of the heavyweight division, which currently he does, obviously with Tyson Fury, WBC, and it looks like he's been taking on Alexander Usyk. Could he get all the belts on his side? Maybe. But again, he's got Joe Joyce waiting in the wings for the WBO. He's got Darren Dubois waiting in the wings for the WBA. So maybe Frank Warren can still have a hold of at least 2 belts by the time Moses Etuma hits his 16th fight in 2 years' time. In which case, depending on how Moses Etuma looks and all that kind of stuff, maybe Frank Warren can put him in with his own guy or whatever, or maybe a lesser champion. You never know how belts can get fragmented. Or maybe convince one of his fighters, whoever's got, say, a couple of belts, vacate one of them so Moses Etuma can then go challenge for it. In which case, yeah, maybe. But it's going to be hard. It's going to be very, very hard. Now, Moses Etuma, as much as he does very well in sparring, apparently, with the likes of Joe Joyce and Lawrence Okolie and so, but it's one thing to do it in sparring when you've got headgear on, 18-ounce gloves. Okay? Compared to no headgear, 10-ounce gloves in a professional ring with the hot lights on you, a crowd looking at you, and of course live TV, and of course a lot of pressure as well because of the goal, right? Also, him at the World Championships, that was a youth World Championships. These are not fully grown men. Men who are experienced. Men who, doesn't really matter what happens in sparring on fight night, they know their way around the ring. They know how to old man you. They know how to set up traps and set you up, all that kind of stuff. So it's going to be interesting to see how he transitions from amateur to pro and go through the gears, go through the levels. Now, will he end up skipping some domestic titles along the way? Because if he doesn't, and he wants to become English champion, British champion, European champion, etc., before he becomes a world champion, then he's going to have to face the current crop directly in there. And we would have to include a Fraser Clark in that. We'd have to include a David Adelaide, somewhat of a stablemate currently. A Down Dubois of sorts, right? So it is going to be interesting. It's going to be very, very interesting to see where it is that Moses Etuma goes. Well, is it Moses or is it Enrico? Because as an amateur, he was known as Enrico. As a pro, he's known as Moses. I don't know what's his middle name, I don't know. Anyway, hopefully he does it. That'd be great. If not, he's given it a good go. Or maybe it's just a storyline to try and hype him up a little bit. Maybe. Because to try and do it in 16, 17 or 18 fights is hard. It's really hard. I mean, it took Wilder, 33 fights. It took Tyson Fury, 27 or 28 fights. You see, it takes a long time to get there. But again, a lot of it depends on how active you are. Frank Warren, Queensberry, are they going to put on enough shows this year and next year to try and get him those fights? If not, would they be willing to let him go on some small hall shows and that if necessary, just to try and top up and get some ranking, get the experience? Maybe they will. Maybe. Anyway, it's going to be interesting to see how Moses Etuma gets on. A lot of people are talking about him in a minute, but again, a lot of people were talking about Joshua. He's done great. A lot of people are talking about Down Dubois not so long ago as well. He's been doing great as well. Okay, he's taken a loss along the way. It happens. But again, Moses Etuma doesn't have to get there to become world heavyweight champion by being undefeated the way that Mike Tyson done it. The goal is to become world heavyweight champion under 20 years, 4 months and 22 days. That's the aim. If he takes a loss or a draw along the way, he takes a loss or a draw along the way. It happens, okay? But again, hopefully people are going to be patient with him. I'm sure Queensberry will guide him correctly, pretty much like they have done with Down Dubois and that as well. So anyway, that's my thoughts on Moses Etuma. For those of you who have seen him as an amateur, do you think he's got what it takes? Yay or nay? Drop your thoughts below. Click thumbs up, subscribe. Catch you next video.